Okay, I will say, Baruch Hashem. I know it's Sunday before Pesach, but Kiragil, we are keeping our Starim, our Seder, we're learning Hilchot Shabbat, and we're we're coming to our final shir for this time around on Muktzeh. Okay, so today's shir really is going to be, up until now we've been saying we can't move Muktzeh, right? So we know Klisha Malachtil is, so we could move Tzarech Mekar Tzarech Gufay. This we know, okay? But other Muktzahs, for example, Muktzeh Machmas Gufay, Muktzeh Machmas Chesron and Kiss, these Muktzahs we said we cannot move, right? So is there a way to move it? What exactly is the Isser? Can I touch Muktzeh? Can I move Muktzeh? Can I pick up Muktzeh? What is entail? And then how can I, if I come and I want to sleep on my bed and my iPhone is on there and in Shabbat, what can I do to lay down and sleep on that bed? So we're going to go through the sources of this. So we're holding on page 329. We are in the Tzurba Rabbanon. We are volume 20, or on page 321. 321. This is the final shir in this volume. B'ezrat Hashem after Pesach, so we're not going to have any shirim over Pesach in the Tzurba. We're going to go on vacation. Okay, I'm going to give you time to do Chazara, and B'ezrat Hashem the Sunday after Passover. So we'll pick up, but we're going to need a new Sfarim. So if anyone is able to help and donate for the Sfarim, it'll be very, very kedai. It's a big mitzvah, and it's a big sky. People are learning halacha. Okay, let's take a look. 321. Page 321, source 26. It says as follows. The Mordechai. Okay, the Mordechai, and he says, the Rishon, Kosser Benu Meir, the Im Chayfetz, or Shum Dover, al Hameot. Let's say there is something on top of money. Okay, all Ashar Muktzeh b'Shabbos. So here's the case, as says the Mordechai. You have Muktzeh, so you have money. That's a classic example of Muktzeh Machmas Gufay, right? So you have money. On top of the money, you have something that it's not Muktzeh, and something that you want. Okay, safer, fine. Mutter l'tilov misham. You're allowed to take it from them. Kidavra Muktzeh einoi aser rak l'tatla mimokum l'mokum of liga boy mutter. You're allowed to touch Muktzeh. You're not allowed to move Muktzeh. Okay? Shulchan Aruch, source 27. Davar, shehu Muktzeh, mutter liga boy. Something that is Muktzeh, you're allowed to touch it. Uvedvad, shiloye, minanea, afilu miktzasai. But you have to make sure it doesn't even move a little bit. Okay? So you're allowed to touch Muktzeh, but you have to make sure it doesn't move. So here's an example. We already know for different reasons that you're not allowed to use the side of a tree. You're not allowed to use the side of an animal. So I want to tie my shoe, right? So I'm allowed to put my foot on the car. The car's not moving, right? Car's Muktzeh. Is a Muktzeh Machmas Chesron and Kiss? It's just Muktzeh whatever. Let's just, without defining what Muktzeh. It's Muktzeh, but I'm not moving it. When I put my foot on the car, it's not moving unless you have a real cheap car. All right, then even then we'll see if that's considered moving in a moment. So I'm allowed to put my foot on the car and I'm allowed to tie my shoes, which I shouldn't be doing with a tree or something else like that. Okay, says a Ramah, source 28, top of page 322. Call Muktzeh. Ein iser el betiltilai. Any Muktzeh that's not it is only usher with moving it. But if you're just touching it without making it move at all, it is mutter. So any Muktzeh item, doesn't matter what the Muktzeh item is, you're allowed to touch it as long as you're making sure you're not moving it. Now, the only problem with this is that there is a Talmud Yerushalmi. In Masechet Beya, in Talmud Yerushalmi, source 29, it tells us as follows. So if an egg, right, that was on Yom Tov, you're allowed to put a keli on the side of the egg so the egg doesn't roll. You're allowed to put a keli on top of it so it doesn't go anywhere. Okay? Rav Mana, uvilvad, we only allowed to do this as long as it doesn't touch the egg.
The bucket over it.
Right. And the bucket over and putting on the side of it, you're allowed to do it, Rav Mana says, but you have to make sure you don't touch it. Why not? You just told me that touching it is not a problem. So why does your Shalmi say that you can't touch it?
You're going to eat it. You're going to eat it.
So let's take a look. There's Machloket Rishonim. Why this Yerushalmi says touching this egg is a problem?
It's my role. You're around.
Okay, very good. You reading further, or you figured it out? Very good. So let's take that's the Maggid Mishnah. That's beautiful. That's the Maggid Mishnah. Maggid Mishnah. He says, Yerushalmi, I don't know the reason, says the Maggid Mishnah. Right, something that's Muktzeh. One of the categories of Muktzeh is noilad, something that is created on Shabbat, like ashes and stuff like that. Ostar ligo behain. Ostar ligo behain kosher. No, there's no instant to touch it. So why does the Yerushalmi say you can't touch the egg when you're putting the pot or something on the side of it or on top of it? So answers the Maggid Mishnah, the Efshar Shema Inanei HaBeitza Al Yedei HaKeli. Since the egg is globular, right? It is round, it is circular. A little touch already makes it move. So that's what the Maggid Mishnah wants to say is the difference with why the Yerushalmi makes a difference by an egg. You can't touch the egg because the egg is going to very much, like Gabriel says, it's going to move. It's round. The Tzurba Tedeshin had a different understanding in this Yerushalmi. First of all, he says, he says, this Maggid Mishnah's answer, right? Source 31, second paragraph. He says, this Maggid Mishnah's answer that eggs are circular and they're going to move, it's a doichik answer. It's a forced answer. It's not a good answer. He doesn't like it. He doesn't like it. He says, what do you mean? It's going to move. Or maybe it's not going to move. So he wants to say, even slightly.
It's
even slightly.
Look, right before in
yeah, but it's not 100% round, so that's why it's not going to move.
He said, "Am I kidding? Right? So you're telling me it's not going to move." He says, "I would distinguish as follows." Listen to the Tzurba Tedeshin's distinguishing here. He says, "The hasam kivan danachas keli ala beitza hilatzarich habeitza." When you place the keli, you're placing it for what? You're placing it for the dvar muktzeh. Tahavi dvar muktzeh, but the kach also liga boy. When we're saying that you're allowed to touch muktzeh, if you're not, I'm not telling you to touch the muktzeh for a dvar muktzeh. You're allowed to put your foot on the car to tie your shoes. That's a dvar mutter, and you're putting it on a muktzeh to tie your shoes. Here, the egg is the muktzeh item, and you're putting the keli over the egg to protect the egg, and so touching it here is not permissible. If you're touching the egg for the egg, you're touching it for the muktzeh, then that's not allowed. So the Tzurba Tedeshin, touching it not for the dvar muktzeh is mutter. So Tzurba Tedeshin makes a chilik as follows: touching it for the muktzeh, that's not allowed. Touching it, but not because I want to do anything with the muktzeh, that is allowed. That's the chilik. So two chilukim here. You have the Maggid Mishnah, and you have the Tzurba Tedeshin. Maggid Mishnah says chilik is if the item is going to move, it's very likely to move. It's a round item, so that's when you can't do it. You can't touch it. But if the item is not going to move, then you could touch it. Tzurba Tedeshin says no. If it is for the dvar muktzeh, meaning I'm doing it for the muktzeh item, then you're not allowed to touch it. If I'm doing it with something else, then I'm allowed to touch it. What does the Shulchan Aruch go with? So we saw 32. The Shulchan Aruch says, of a mutter l'chvod alav keli uvilvad shel yigaboy, right? As long as it doesn't move, and explains the Mishnah Bura. V'alfal gav the mutter liga b'muktzeh kidil el hocha beitza kai v'chtei shelo yanenu oisa, because you're not allowed to move it. So this Shabbat explains the Shulchan Aruch, saying that, like the Maggid Mishnah, that what Muktzeh that is very likely to move, all right, so something that is round like an egg, then you would not be allowed to touch it. Okay, so here comes the question. The question would be the car. So I want to put my foot on the car to tie my shoes. This guy's got a cheap car. So when I put my foot on the car, the whole car shifts. Right? You have sometimes you put the car in neutral, you push it, right? So the car is sitting there, and the car shifts. Is that considered moving? And if that's considered moving, then you would not be allowed to tie your shoes on a car that moves on Shabbat. Okay, so say good, say. So what's staying in place? Say it good. What's staying in place? So here, I'm going to read you from the Yalkut Yosef outside the Tzurba. He says, even if the automobile springs cause the chassis to move, when someone leans on it, it's permitted. Why? Since the wheels remain in the same position as before, this is not considered an act of moving an item that is muktzeh. Okay? So, says the Yalkut Yosef, as long as the wheels are remaining in place, you're not moving the wheels, maybe the body of the car is moving. So that's okay. Moving the body of the car is okay as long as the wheels stay in place, says the Yalkut Yosef.
So if the guy forgot to put on brakes, you put your foot and start rolling.
So that would be a problem.
A big dog and puts his feet on the ground. You just, like this with neck.
Right. So we saw by animals that even moving their hair, petting them, would be considered moving them, and it would be considered muktzeh. That's a good question. I don't know. It is a good question. Now, he writes over here, it's forbidden to touch an item that is muktzeh if it's globular, such as an egg, since the slightest touch is liable to move it. Okay? So this we saw. Now, just to talk about cars for a moment, talking about cars. So I'm going to read the halakha over here from the Yalkut Yosef. It's permissible to open the door of an automobile in order to remove something from it, as long as opening the doors does not cause a light to go on. And there's a proper erev to permit carrying something from the automobile, right? So one of my rebbeim once explained. He said that back in the day, they on a Shabbat they had a party at home or something like this, and they didn't have enough place in the fridge to put all the drinks. It's cold outside, but they don't just leave the drinks outside, so they used to leave it in the trunks of the car. Okay, there's no lights when you open the trunk of the car. Now there's always lights and stuff like that. But you have everything. Most people don't know how to disconnect stuff, but let's say. Back in the day, you had manual. Everything was analog. It wasn't digital, right? So you took the key, you went into the trunk, you opened it up. There's no light, nothing inside. You can use it.
Indicate on the dashboard shows you if the door is open.
Okay, that would be a problem. But back in the old days, that wasn't that. The cars weren't like that. The cars were very analog. There was no light going up on the inside, no light on the inside, nothing. There was no lights. So if I have this old car, right? Technically, it should permissible even to sit inside the automobile on Shabbat. In such a case, the automobile is not considered a base of muktzeh items, and even if there was so, the halacha is that it's permissible to sit on a muktzeh item as long as one does not move it from place to place. So even if he says first, it's not muktzeh the car, and even if it is muktzeh, it's not a bus, it's lover. Also, he wants to say, and even if it is, you're not moving it. So if you're not moving it, you're allowed to sit in it. He says, don't do it because people are not going to understand what you're doing. So even if you went ahead and you detached all the lights, right? You made everything, shut it down. Don't, right? Don't do it. What about
mobile homes?
1 second. What happens? The issue now with I opened the trunk, right, and I took out my drinks. Can I now close the door of the car? Obviously, it's dvar muktzeh, right? And I have no need for it now, right? So can I move now the door to close it? So you're right. So someone discovers that his car door was left open on Shabbat, and the only items he has in the car are muktzeh, such as work documents and a tape recorder. he may not shut the door to protect those items from being stolen. This would be considered moving an object for the sake of items that are muktzeh, and that is forbidden. If there are items in the car that are not muktzeh, besides those that are muktzeh, then closing the door would be for the protection of the non-muktzeh items, and that will be permitted. This is assuming again that the shutting door will not turn off any lights in the car. What happens if I only have muktzeh items and I want to really close that door, right? So either you can bring something permissible into the car, right? So you can put something non-muktzeh into the car, or like we're going to learn later, there's ways to move muktzeh that would be mutter. Okay, not with your hands directly. We'll take a look at that shortly. Okay, so far we saw this. The Chut Shani, Rav Nisan Karelitz, he wants to say, how worried do I have to be that a muktzeh might move? Right? Like, the Yaakov just said something that's round you're worried about. But how much worried should I be? So he wants to say, it would seem the prohibition against touching muktzeh when it moves applies specifically when it's known. If you know for sure that it's going to move. But if it's something that could move, but it's not certain, then you can still touch it. So only if you're 100% sure that, or people are generally sure that this is going to move, then you can't touch that muktzeh.
So what do you do with a kitchen drawer that has all kind of muktzeh in there?
But it has
pencils.
But it has other stuff also in there. So it's the basis lover. It's the lover mutter, right? Lover heter. So then it's permissible to open that. That was last week's year. Okay, so far what we came out with was as follows. Very important to this site to get this clear. Is number one, when it comes to muktzeh, the whole issue with muktzeh is moving it, not necessarily picking it up and moving it. That is a problem, but also just touching it and moving it is also a problem, right? Touching it in the way that it moves. Stam touching muktzeh that won't move, that's not a problem, ever. Okay? So far, so good. Let's just take a look at the laws of Shabbat. Muktzeh is only permitted to be picked up, but is also not only permitted to be picked up, also not be moved. One is permitted to touch muktzeh, provided that the muktzeh is not moved by his touch. Although it's now permitted to move an item that is muktzeh, you're allowed to benefit from that muktzeh item, such as sitting on the item. You're allowed to sit on the car. You're allowed to sit on the stone. You're allowed to sit on those dvarim that are muktzeh, or a log on Shabbat. Dvarim that are muktzeh, you're allowed to sit on it because you're not moving it. So therefore, you would be allowed to sit on it like that. Okay. Now that we talked about that, the next topic is indirect movement. So far we've been talking about moving it directly with your hands. What happens if I do it indirectly? Indirectly meaning, we'll call it, in halacha, it's called tiltul min hatzad, which means moving it with something else. Okay? Moving it with something else. Exactly what that something else is, we'll talk about. But stop, let's take a look first in Masechet Shabbat, source 35. Met hamutal b'hama. So you have a dead corpse in the sun. You don't want to keep it in the sun. Okay, it's going to get ruined. It's a piece of meat, and it's going to get burnt. It's going to get ruined. So you got to get it out. So Rabbi Yehuda Amar Shmuel. Yehuda said, name Shmuel. Havcho meimita lemita. You take the bed. You take a stretcher. Okay, the body's on the stretcher, and you move the stretcher, right, to another stretcher, and you keep like flipping the body from bed to bed.
Stretcher is muktzeh by itself.
Why is stretcher muktzeh?
Why stretcher is
Why is stretcher muktzeh?
Why stretcher is not muktzeh?
Why is it
You're
muktzeh?
not using it on Shabbat.
You can't lay down on it?
Well, you can lay down.
Why is it not a status of a bed? It's an analogous thing. It doesn't have anything on it. It's not a problem. So you have the body on the stretcher, and now you pick up the stretcher, you lean it to the side, you let the body roll off to the next stretcher, you take the next one, and the next one, and this way you can move it. This is tiltul min hatzad. I'm moving the body without directly touching it with my hands.
Is it bizayon to the body?
To do that? Apparently he's saying it's not. It's more of bizayon to leave it in the sun. Rav Amar, maniach halav kikar tinoik. This you already saw. or you could put a baby, a child, or a bread, or any non-muktzeh item, and put it on the dead body, and move the dead body with that item. That again only works for a mit that is sitting there in the sun that has to be moved. It doesn't work for any other muktzeh. You cannot take any of the muktzeh and say, "Oh, here's an iPhone. Let me just put, let me put a sock on it, and here I move the." It doesn't work that way. All right,
Out of
just
respect to the body?
say
It's
what?
out of respect to the body?
Yes, out of
It's
respect
an
to the body.
exception.
Cover the mace. You want to get it out and move it to the right place. Now, the Gemara says, right, when he passed away, Shlomo Melech asked that question to the Beit Din, right? Now, the Gemara then says, when it comes to kikartina, kuli amalei pligi deshari, everyone holds. Putting a bread or child on top of the dead body, that's fine. That's not a problem. Kli pligi, when do they argue? The leisle, when you don't have it. Mar savar tiltul minatzad shmei tiltul. Mar savar shmei eloi shmei tiltul. So there's a question if moving it from indirectly, from stretcher to stretcher, from bed to bed, is that considered doing it? Is that considered tiltul, carrying, or it's not considered? Gemara then wants to say, maybe it's a machlokes tanaim. Gemara says, like the kuli ame tiltul minatzad shmei tiltul. Everyone holds that moving it indirectly is considered moving it directly. That's so far where the Gemara Masechet Shabbat Mem Gimel Mem ends by saying that what indirect movement tiltul minatzad is considered complete tiltul, and you're not allowed to do it. However, hold on. The Gemara at this point, this Gemara says the conclusion of this Gemara seems to say that tiltul minatzad asur. Then we have another Gemara. It's actually a Mishnah. We already saw it multiple times. The Mishnah says, "Ha'evan shal piachavit." Right? If you have a stone that was forgotten on top of a barrel, what could you do? You can pick up the barrel, put it to the side, right, and let the stone fall off. You can tilt it. So you could do tiltul min hatzad, right? Haita ben chaviyot, if it's amongst many barrels, matbia, you can pick it up, walk with it to the side, and then tilt it off. So you see, you could move muktzeh indirectly. So far, you have one Gemara that comes out and says, tiltul min hatzad, you can't do. And another Gemara that seems to be saying, based on the Mishnah, that you're allowed to. And Ma'is Shalikar, Ma'is that are the coins that are on a cushion, and he may shake the cushion so they fall. So we see you could. So we have two Gemaras, and Tosfos going to have to explain now what's the difference. Why one Gemara says you can't, and why one Gemara says you could. And this is similar to the Truma Tadeshin that we saw in the previous section. Let's take a look. The Amari, and the Ri says the Yesh Lechalik, the Hacha Iker Hatiltul Sarich Meis. When it is the primary moving is for the corpse. V'lo dami lekol hanu shena oisa Iker Hatiltul Sarich Kar v'Chavit v'lo Sarich Ma'od v'Even. Says the Tosfot, why are you doing it? When it comes to the barrel, you want to get to the wine in the barrel. The stone is on the barrel. I'm tiltul minatzad, picking it up and throwing and leaning it to the side, letting it fall off, because my intention is to get to the wine. I'm not doing it for the muktzeh. I'm doing it for the dvar mutter. So then tiltul minatzad will be mutter. But if I'm doing it for the dvar muktzeh, which is I'm moving the mace to move the dead body to another place, then that will not be allowed. Then tiltul minatzad will not be allowed. So the Tosfot wants to say there's a hiluk, there's a difference. Tiltul minatzad, moving it indirectly with some other object or item, is only permissible if I'm doing it for the dvar mutter. If I'm doing it for the muktzah, then tiltul minatzad is not allowed. That's the Tosfot. Now, before we move on to what the Shulchan Aruch says, they bring from Shlomo Zalman Auerbach of why this would be. Why would it make a difference? Why would it make a difference? Why I'm moving the muktzeh? We're on 326 right now. The why would it make a difference if I'm moving it for the muktzeh? Why would it make a difference if I'm moving it for the dvar mutter? So the Shlomo Zalman Auerbach wants to say, you remember way back on page 217 in Asfarim, we gave 4 reasons, 3 from the Rambam and 1 from the Ravid, of why we have Muktzeh in the first place. These dinim of Muktzeh, which are Derabanan, why do we have them in the first place? And the Ravad said the reason is Shugeder L'Hotza'ah. It's a gather, it's like a gate, in order to make sure someone doesn't do the malacha of Hotza'ah, which is taking out from one domain to another domain. So it says Rav Shlomo Zalman, Kol shemetaltel b'gufa v'chol acher yad, keeping this way, v'chai gavna b'hotza'ah poter mechatas, v'fei she'ein derech hotza'ah b'kach, hu adinami de legazur b'chai gavna iser muktzah. So it says Rav Shlomo Zalman, since if I would have taken out something kil acher yad, I'm using indirectly, or I'm doing with my guf, I'm not carrying in the right way, it's not going to be, I'm not going to be chayav v'chatas for this hotza'ah, right? So therefore, you're able to make this chilik, tiltum and atzad for dvar muktzah, tiltum and atzad for dvar mutter. That's why he says you're allowed to make such a distinction. Now, what does the Shulchan Aruch say? Well, do we go with this Tosfot? Obviously we do. Says the Shulchan Aruch in source 39, page 326, tiltum and atzad, litzarach hadavar mutter, mutter. So I'm allowed to indirectly with something in between, move muktzah, if I'm doing it for a mutter item, getting to the wine, getting to the cushion, getting to the bed. So here in this case, it seems to be, let's say I want to get to my bed. On my bed is the iPhone. Okay? Shabbat, what can I do? I want to get to my bed. All right? So I can take something else. Okay? I don't know what you have. You have this long, thick ruler. Okay? Or something that is a non-muktzah item, whatever you find, okay? And I can move it with this, okay? A knife or a squeegee or something like that, and I can move it and move it off the bed, just like that. Tiltum and atzaz, and I can move it off. Okay, take a look at Shulchan Aruch, source 40. Shochach Evan al pi chavit, o ma'ot al akar. Move it. You have to drop it. Tilt it on the side, you have to drop it. Yeah. Yeah, wherever it's gonna go. I guess you can put something there to cushion it and let it fall. Okay. Meet the chavadal tidavav in the fellet. Okay, one may tilt the barrel on its side so the stone falls. He can shake the cushion, and this way the money can fall off it. If you can't drop it over there, so same thing in the iPhone, I guess. If you can't, you pick up the mattress and shake it off, but if you're scared it's gonna break, or you can't do it in that area, I don't know if you can stay from the break, but you can't do it in that area. Let's put it like that. Then you can just pick up the mattress and move it somewhere else, and then lean it off that way, right? That would be okay. Same thing over here by the barrel. You can pick it up, move it somewhere, and tilt it off. Okay? Let's take a look at the Mishnah Berurah, source 41. Now, why are you allowed to move the barrel? And same thing by the cushion. If you want to sit in it. Rather by tilting. But you have no need for it. Okay? You have no need for the bed. You have other beds. You don't have to sleep on this bed. This is a guest bed. You have no guests. And the iPhone's on that. Then you're not allowed to move it. Then you're not allowed to do it. He's just worried about the loss of the item. So it shouldn't get stolen, it shouldn't get ruined. Then you're not allowed to move it. Because the only time you're allowed to move it is for a davar mutter. Something that you need. Something that you actually need. When there's a tzricha for it. Okay? Right? Why are you allowed to pick it up and move it somewhere else, the barrel? Because you're afraid that they should not fall upon a different barrel and break them. Right? So that's where you're allowed to move it to somewhere else. Now, he says in Yud Zayin, you could pick it up. Rak tiltul min atzad. Kivin she'enu metaltel muktzeh l'adei rak im heter v'chavarato gam came b'shvil shu tzarich leheter. If he needs the item, like we said before, The davar zeh shari killed the command. But if you could knock it off first before picking it up and moving it somewhere, he should be knocking it off or shaking it off first. You could move it if you cannot shake it in that place. But if you could shake it off in that place, then you should. But if you can't, then you can pick it up and shake it off in a place that you could. Take a look at the Shulchan Aruch. Shulchan Aruch is going to say now, not only if I need the wine from that barrel. Let's say I need that spot where the barrel is. Okay, I need that spot.
He said that the barrel has Muktzeh, so I'm taking the barrel. So this is a Muktzeh item.
Yep.
This I'm
Yep.
taking it off.
Yeah.
But not. It's not like the case of tiltum and atzad, but with the other case where you're using something else to move.
Yeah, but it's still tiltum and atzad. Why? Am I touching the Muktzeh?
I mean, maybe say it's basis. Why don't you say it's basis?
It would be a basis if I left it there on purpose. But this is when he forgot it, right? If you forgot it, then it's not a basis, right? That's what we said. That was last week. So it's not a basis, or whenever it was.
This is like a broom or something.
Right. It's some other item. It's not a basis. It's a different item. So therefore, I can move it and I can knock it off, shake it off like that. Correct. If it's a basis, then you can't do anything. It's a basis lever muktzeh, right? Then you have to do the other stuff. Okay. Let's take a look at the Shulchan Aruch now in source 42, where he wants to say, that's only if you need you need to use the barrel or you need to use the cushion. That's where we say you should shake it off and knock it off. But if you need the place, I need the place where the chaviters or where the cushion is. And it's not going to be enough to just shake it off because I actually need the place. You're allowed to pick up the barrel with the muktzeh on top of it, the cushion with the muktzeh on top of it, in order to use that space. So,
the wallet was on your pillow.
Right.
Sleep on your pillow. Just take the pillow and tilt it.
You can tilt it like that. Or let's say I want to sit in the place where my pillow was. I can pick up the pillow with the iPhone on top of it and put it somewhere else. Because I need that space. Shulchan Aruch says.
iPhone say is what?
Let's say it's my Muktzeh Malchus from Kiss. Right? Let's say it's an expensive, fancy one. Muktzeh Malchus from Kiss. I'm allowed to pick it up with the pillow underneath it and move it. Mattress is on the mattress. Pick up the mattress and move it. Okay? Now, take a look at the Mishnah Berurah on source 43, Rabbi Agadi. That's exactly what you said. This is when he forgets it. But the Baniach, Harei Achav is Guf and Asas Basis and Muktehu. Right? If you place it, then it's a basis and you can't do any of these stuff. Then there's no talk. There's no talk here. If it's a basis, there's no conversation about tiltul min atzad with the item that's underneath it. Okay.
It takes a lot to become a bus. We begin of Shabbat.
Right, it has to be from the beginning. I have to have left it. Right. We went through all the conditions. You can review the conditions on page 314. You had the conditions over there. It has to be placed by the owner, someone with permission from the owner, from the beginning of Shabbat. I had to for it to remain there according to some, and it has to be just that the davar usher is there and not boss's davar usher or davar heter. Okay, so then he goes by which is more important. Right. So we saw that. All right. Now, Shulchan Aruch, source 44, page 328. Shulchan Aruch. Okay. Listen, everybody's eating. After you finish eating, you have bones. Okay, that are edible for dogs, shells that are edible for animals, and crumbs that are smaller than the size of a kazai. But if the shells are not edible for animals, right, no one can use them. It is muktzeh. So what can you do? You can't move them. Says Shulchan Aruch, what can you do? One may shake the board so they fall. Right, the board is the table, so you can tilt the table, and you can knock off the chametz that way. If one needed a space which the table occupies, even if it only contains items that are inedible for animals, right? They're only muktzeh. One may lift it and move them. So if I knew where that table is, I can pick it up and move it. Says the Mishnah Berurah, this board which rests on the table on which to put bread. The same rule applies to tablecloth spread. So I'm allowed to shake it off the tablecloth. The reason for the allowance is one does not move the muktzeh items with one's hands. So the tablecloth with all the crumbs and garbage on it, that's going to be considered tiltul min hatzad, and you'll be allowed to move it that way. So says the Taz, Nirahu hadin, if you move it, going to megager or some sakin, if through a knife from the table, that would also be permissible because it's tiltul min hatzad. I'm not actually touching it. Even though naga how like tiltul min hatzad mutter. So that's what the Taz says. Taz says I can take my knife, I can take something else, something that's a devar mutter, and I can move it off the table. Says Shulchan Aruch Harav. Shulchan Aruch Harav is not happy with this idea. He says, listen, the knife, it's shenas like kiyad arucha. It's considered a long hand, the extension. Like we said about the fork and the spoon when it came to Bayra. Remember we said it's his long hand. So says the Shulchan Aruch Harav, you're using a knife to clear the table. That's your hand clearing it. That's not the knife. It's not tiltul min hatzad. He wants to say that tool is a hand extension. It's not a tool. Right. That's what Shulchan Aruch Harav wants to say. The Chazon Ish wants to make another diakovi. He wants to make another distinction. He wants to say,
it's just you said extension.
Right.
It's not a tool that you're making water of.
Right. When it comes to that's what we have, right? We saw by spoons and forks and stuff like that, eating utensils. We said that's what he's saying. The same thing over here. It's not. It's just an extension. This is a knife that's an extension. The Chazon Ish wants to say, hold on. This whole tiltul min hatzad, okay? This whole tiltul min hatzad, is with this knife business, right? He says the primary purpose is for the muktzeh. And it shouldn't be allowed.
The dead body.
You're moving the muktzeh, like the dead body, right? Like the Tosfot wanted to say. Tosfot wanted to say. Remember, he said tiltul min hatzad. It's only allowed when you're doing it for the dvar mutter. Okay. And so here he wants to say, moving the garbage with the knife, you're moving the isser, you're moving the muktzeh. But in the end of the day, the Akut Yosef says, no, it is considered tiltul min hatzad. Because I want the table. I want the space on the table. So I want to get these things out of here. So therefore, it's still going to be considered for the dvar mutter. Mutter tatel muktzeh tiltul min hatzad. In voice can insert davar mutter. Behind it, shematatel ayidei chayfetz or achar ve'negei b'muktzeh directly. So comes out tiltul min hatzad. Right. I think this ends the section. Tiltul min hatzad rabotai is as follows. There are times when indirect movement, known as tiltul min hatzad, is permitted. This is done by carrying the item that muktzeh item is resting upon. This is permitted if the purpose of the movement is not for the benefit of the muktzeh. However, if the purpose of the movement is for the benefit of the muktzeh, then it's forbidden to be moved. So when it comes to tiltul min hatzad, it can only be done for dvar mutter, not for the dvar muktzeh. For instance, if one left money on a chair, he may move the chair if one needs the space. But one may not move the chair if he wants to protect the money. If tilting the muktzeh object off the non-muktzeh object is possible, one should do so before picking it up entirely. So if you can tilt it off before moving it, then that's okay. But if not, you could move it with the item on top of it till it gets to a place. Okay. It's just saying one may pick up a non-muktzeh object right. If tilting the muktzeh object off the non-muktzeh object is possible, one should do so before picking it up entirely. Meaning, if I have to pick it up, like I have the stone or I have the iPhone on the pillow, whatever it is, you should technically try to tilt it off if you can do that. If you can't, then you can pick it up and move it. That's still considered tiltul min hatzad. But if you could move it off like the barrel, right? You should try to get the stone off right away. But if not, if you can't do it in that spot, you can move it and then do it elsewhere. Okay?
Right. We should say a broom or whatever, right? I'm using a knife to take the iPhone off the case. You said that was questionable, right?
That
Is that any different than
it's the tiltum and atzad. It is tiltum and atzad.
Guy doesn't have a problem with doing it for both the Devar.
No, nothing for Dvar Muktzeh. I want my bed. Here. The shells may be moved by brushing them off the table with a knife or an other non-Muktzeh object, or by shaking out the tablecloth. So in all these cases, you are doing tiltum and atzad. You're moving it indirectly, and you're moving it for the Dvar Mutter or for the Makam. Okay? Shulchan Aruch said the Makam also. You can pick it up and move it if you need the place. Okay? So you can pick it up and move it if you need the place. I think there is a distinction, if I'm understanding it correctly, that when it comes to moving it to its place, let's take it through. No, he says you can move it even if it's on the tablecloth, right? And you can just move it off if I need the space. I can use tiltum and atzad, right? So tiltum and atzad, it's indirect.
The seed shells you can move by hand.
If they're not edible and there's not a lot of it, right? So it's not graf sharei. You can take a knife and sweep it up and put it straight into the garbage. You can bring your garbage can here, take your knife and sweep it like that.
I cannot do it by hand.
If you have a lot of it, you can do it by hand. Okay.
Question.
Yeah, that's what I mean by a lot of it. I mean, groceries and everything else is too much of it. Yeah. Yes, Makio.
What about on the floor in the apartment? There are children's toys, electric toys on the floor.
Uh-huh.
What's the best way to move it out of the way?
So that's the next section. That's going to be the next section. Okay. The next section, and another way of moving Muktzeh. Another way of moving Muktzeh is known as tiltul begufay, moving it with one's body. Okay? Tiltul begufay, meaning I'm not moving it with my hands, but rather I'm using my body or other body parts to move it. Okay? Guy has straw on top of his bed. Okay? And he wants to lay down on it, and he doesn't want that straw there. So what can he do, says the Mishnah? He cannot move it with his hands. He should move it with his body. So you get onto the bed, and as you get onto the bed, you push the straw off the bed with your body. And that would be permissible. In what case are you allowed to do this? Are you allowed to do it just because I want the bed? Or can I also do this in order to protect the Muktzeh? So when it came to tiltul min atzad, we said you can only do it for the Dvar Mutter. What about tiltul begufay? So the Rosh. Let's take a look at the Rosh. He writes in the bold part, Hilkach alpha gav de lekash shehu muktzah. Even though you're doing it for the kash, doing it for the straw, that's muktzah, you're still allowed to do the movement. You're allowed to move it. So the Rosh seems to be saying that if you're moving, even moving it to Dvar Muktzeh, it's okay if you're doing it till B'Gufay. The Ran says no. It's only because he needs the bed. That's why he's allowed to do it, not for the Dvar Muktzeh. Okay, so in our case of the iPhone, you can get onto the bed with the iPhone on it, and I can push it off with my body, not with my hands. Okay, I can push it off. Now, am I doing it? I can elbow it, yeah. Can I do this for the iPhone? I want to get it off the bed. The kids are going to be jumping in it, whatever it is. Or is it because I really need the bed, and then I can do it? So the Rosh says you can even do it for the Dvar Muktzeh. Whereas the Ran says, no, you can only do it for the Dvar Mutter. Says the Shulchan Aruch in source 53, the tiltul b'kufay, afilu l'tzarech davar ha'asur, mutter. Even if it's a Dvar ha'asur, you're allowed to do it. So he's going with the Rosh. Tiltul min atzad, the Shulchan Aruch said, Take a look at back page 326, source 39. Tiltul min atzad, l'tzarech davar hamuter, muter. Okay, so there is a distinction here, Rabotai. Tiltul min atzad, only you can do it l'dvar muter, for the muter item. Tiltul b'gufay, Shulchan Aruch says you can even move it with your body, a different body part, even for the muktzeh item. I would like to get this muktzeh item out of the place. I can elbow it. I can put it with my knee. I can put it with my foot. I can do it with my wrist. Right? With your teeth, with your nose, with your head. How you want to do it? It's tilted b'gufay. Says the Mishnah Berurah. Perish ain't gonna be other. Kim b'gufay b'shari b'rav. My kilin b'yoyter mishal tilted minatzad. Even greater than tilted minatzad is the cool of tilted b'gufay. Well, okay, mutter. I feel it's davar aser. Right? And it doesn't make a difference what body part you are using to move it. Now, the Chazon Ish, again, wants to say, no, there should be a distinction. He's arguing with the Shulchan Aruch. And he's saying, Tilta Begufay is only for the Dvar Mutter. We don't hold this way. That's what Chazon Ish wanted to say. And he wanted to say, based on this Gemara, there's a Gemara over here that says, one may not use the storeroom for the first time. If one has never taken supplies from the store, he may not begin removing things, assuming that they're muktzeh. However, he may make a path so that he'll be able to enter and exit. Make a path means kicking it with his feet. If tiltul begufoy was mutter for dvar osir, says the Chazon Ish, why does this Gemara say in order to create a path? Just say he moves it with his body. Tiltul begufoy is mutter for everything, according to the Shulchan Aruch. So why is this Gemara saying tiltul begufoy is only okay if you need to make it a path, and not for the and not for the dvar muktzeh itself? So therefore, he wants to say that on page 332, source 56. It's not considered indirect. Tiltul gomer if you're doing the dvar muktzeh, says the Chazon Ish. However, according to the Shulchan Aruch, it's a good question. I thought about it too. He doesn't bring an answer here. Perhaps the Shulchan Aruch says that maybe I am moving it for the muktzeh item. Think about it this way, Rabbi. I am moving it for the muktzeh item, so there will be a path. But I'm not doing it for the path. People are going to be walking in here, right? I'm going to walk in here. I want this muktzeh item to be safe, so I'm going to kick it to the side. I happen to be making a path while doing it. Okay, so Chazon Ish looking at this Gemara saying the path means it's a dvar mutter. I'm doing it for the makom. I'm doing it whatever, but for the moving the actual muktzeh item, there would be not. So maybe the Shulchan Aruch doesn't look at it that way. All right, Lamaisa, Allah Lamaaseh, the Shmirat Shabbat Hilchata, the Yalkut Yosef, they all hold tiltul begufoy. You can move, no problem. Right, mutter for all types of muktzeh. For all types of muktzeh, whether it's for the muktzeh or whether for the mutter item, doesn't make a difference. Take a look. Shmirat Shabbat Hilchata, mutter l'tal dvar muktzeh shleik derech shem tal l'leis b'meisachol. כגון על ידי נסיבה דחיפה, ברגל, מעפק, וכן באחרי ידיו, או אצל ידיו, והוא נקרא בשם טילטל בגופוי, או טילטל כאחר יד. טילטל זה מותר, אפילו כשמטלטל לצורך הדבר המוקצה עצמוי. Even if I'm doing it for the muktzeh עצמו itself. So here, Malkiel, yes, I have the muktzeh toy on the floor, and it's an expensive muktzeh toy, and I don't want it to get ruined. How do I move it? I move it with my foot, okay? I move it with my foot. I move it with my elbow, okay? Such as a coin or a bill, one found in the street. Such a case, permitted to push such item with one foot in order to hide them, so one can acquire them after Shabbat if there is an Erev in that location. Okay, says the Yalkut Yosef. Similarly, now he says, there are those who say, like with one's body, to some degree, in case of need. What are you saying? But if it's personal to move muktzeh with one's foot or elbow, as that is considered like movement with one's body. In case of in case you didn't want to rely on the opinion. What is it? Okay, v'yesh chalkim. Okay, I didn't read the next one. Of v'yesh chalkim, and some disagree. Some disagree. This is the Chazon Ish, source footnote 23, who rules most strictly concerning tiltul begufay. Of Malkim Tzarech, Afshas Marchal Mikelim, Medenza Amr Lagabe, Kol Sugei HaMuktzeh. Va'afilim Moise came to Tzarech HaMuktzeh. Right, you're worried that someone's going to steal the money. You're allowed to push it even for the Muktzeh item. Now, in footnote 22, there is a talk about the following. Let's say the way I always move this Muktzeh item is with my wrist. Example, I have a watch. Watch that tells time is not Muktzeh. Watch that doesn't tell time, it's broken, it's Muktzeh. How am I carrying my watch? How are you carrying your watch? You're wearing a watch. It's on your wrist. Is it in your hand? No. So can I continue to carry a broken watch on my wrist? Let's say it's not jewelry. It's not going to be jewelry. It's not a jewelry. Meaning, my question is as follows. Is this tiltul begufo? It's not my hand. Or do I say, since this is usually the way I carry it, so it is considered regular carrying? Understand? We said tiltul is with your hand. Tiltul begufo is something else. But what about this item that's never carried by the hand? Is it considered tiltul begufo, or is it considered regular tiltul? Because that's the usual way you do it. Right? Same situation. Right? Continuing to wear it. Is that considered tiltul, real tiltul, because that's the actual way of wearing it? Or is it tiltul begufoi because it's not my hands? Because that's the usual way of moving it. Okay, yeah, that's the question here. So he wants to say, and we'll take a look at this. I believe I found it in the Yalkut Yosef. He says over here, okay, here in the Yalkut Yosef on page 170, outside of the Tzurba, some poskim rule that a Muktzeh item that is usually moved with one's body may not be moved on Shabbat with one's body. For example, someone is wearing a watch that's not considered jewelry and it stopped running. The watch is Muktzeh and it cannot be worn anymore since this is a manner which is usually moved about. Other poskim ruled that one may continue wearing the watch on one's wrist since it's an act of moving the watch with one's body, and it's only forbidden to move it by hand only. So he brings the mahloket. He doesn't give the answer, but you have, if you're in cases of need, you have what to rely on. It is considered tiltul begufay because tiltul is considered carrying it with the hand, and even though it's the regular way to carry on the wrist, you can still say it's considered tiltul begufay and not regular tiltul. So you have that from the Yalkut Yosef. Yes, Malkiel.
What about delivery packages by the front door?
Okay.
I can move with my feet. Also put it on the side without knowing what's inside.
Yep. You kick it in. You kick it in. Right. So for example, you live in areas where there is porch pirates, right? It's a big hefset to let packages sit outside. All right. So you kick it in. You're doing a tiltul begufay.
For sure.
All right. We'll get into that at a separate time. It's a good question. You gotta kick it in.
Porch fires, but the elements starting to rain.
Hey, you kick it in. It's tiltul begufay. Tiltul begufay is not considered tiltul. That's it. And you kick it in. Okay. The Igrot Moshe, source 59. How should one conduct oneself concerning moving a forbidden item using one body? Is permitted to use only for the need of the forbidden item, or even for the need of the forbidden item? So I want to save my item, right? I'm doing it for the Muktzeh item itself. I want to save the Muktzeh. It's forbidden to move the Muktzeh with one's body for the purpose of the Muktzeh, but it's for the necessary manner, it is permissible. And we already saw the Yalkut Yosef said that you can move it always, even for the Dvar Muktzeh itself. You're allowed to move it tiltul begufay. just read you quickly from here. Although it's not permitted to move an item that is muktzeh, it is permitted to benefit from muktzeh. This one is, why is this here? No, note 4. Who states that one should do so if he is in need to do so, such as when afraid the item will be stolen or something else. Right, so that's what we talked about. Porch pirates or going to get ruined by the elements and stuff like that. Okay, that's the halacha l'maaseh. That ends off the shear of Muktzeh. And the machshava over here, if you want to take a look at it really quick, he wants to say that when a person eats for the sake of heaven and says words at the table, his table atones for him, right? Shulchan is his mizbeach. So a person eats for the right reason, namely for enjoying Shabbat. He says words of Torah at his table. The holy Shabbat on the table will provide atonement. You have to know what you're doing when you're eating there. It says the Hashir v'Hashevach. Education on Shabbat extremely important. One achieves great benefits in the realm of education on Shabbat table. So one should not hurry to finish one's meal, right? Shouldn't rush through it. It's proper to use a Shabbat meal for saying words of Torah, Parsha, the Musar. That's a time that's very apropos to instill midot. And you should take every minute seriously. He wants to say, not seriously, everyone's going to be on their knees, but a person should spend the right time. Oh, and then the story in the Barchi Nafshi on page 330 is an interesting story. This guy was going under a lot of surgeries, and he went to the Ger Rebbe, the Pnei Menachem, to ask him for help. Every day he has another surgery. So the Pnei Menachem asked him, how do you spend your Shabbat on the Shabbat table? And they told him that they found out that he dissects every person on his Shabbat table. He comes back home from the shul and says, that guy was sitting over there, and he was not talking to this guy. He about everybody in the shul. Okay? He dissects every person and every problem instead of speaking words of Torah. So the Pnei Menachem told him, stop dissecting people, and you will no longer need to be dissected and cut up by the doctors. And he stopped speaking Lashon Hara on his table. Baruch Hashem, he had him watch cinema, and he was okay. That's in the Barchi Nafshi. Beautiful story. Rabotai, the next time we meet to learn the Tzurba, we'll be starting volume 21. Be'ezrat Hashem. We have a minyan, right? Okay? Hashem Omer. Atzah HaKadosh Baruch Hu Zakoi Yisrael. לפי כך קיבלנו תורה מצוות שנאמר, אדוני חפש למען צדקו יגדיל תורה וידיר.